Guys, it's Clara. Welcome back to my channel. So I was going to do a garden update for you. A lot has changed since the last video. I took out all the lettuces. I left the kale since it seems to have been doing well. I actually had just harvested a bunch of leaves. I've just been clipping them off from around the perimeter of each plant. And so far the tomatoes are flourishing wonderfully. There's a lot of clusters and they're big. They're sun sugar tomatoes that I have here, and they are just ripening before my eyes. I mean, what is better really than eating this tomato right off the plant, which I'm probably going to do right after I'm done filming. We've also been harvesting a lot of green beans, and what I learned is to be careful with fertilizer. Some have said you could fertilize them and it'd be fine. Others have said don't do that because it just puts out leaves and not enough fruit, and unfortunately I found the latter to be true. So for a week or two we didn't have any beans coming. So what I ended up doing was, you know, after I fertilized with a nitrogen fertilizer, which I shouldn't have done, which I give to the tomatoes and they love, it produced huge leaves, like leaves bigger than this even. And then the flowers stopped coming. So I ended up pruning some of those leaves back, and now the flowers are coming back. I don't know if you could see those little buds in there. But yeah, anyway, so there's a couple bean plants in there. This kale is probably doing the best of all the kale. And then I have a couple kale there. I had planted the carrots here. I just thinned them out right before turning on the camera. And I put a couple kale over there, which are doing fine considering how little the pots are. You know, it's not a lot of room for the roots to dig deep down. The zucchini, unfortunately I had an issue. You know, it was flourishing nice and green, as can be seen from the previous video, and I had seen on somebody's YouTube channel about making your own antifungal spray, which I did. And then I end up burning the leaves. It was just awful. I was just so upset because I ended up putting these holes in the leaves, you know, burning them off. I'm just now starting to get leaves back. And the sad part of it is now the new leaves are starting to get the powdery mildew. And I think that's what this is. So if you'll notice the yellowing in here, yeah, that's not cool. But thankfully though, it's still producing new green leaves, and there's fruits at the bottom here. So I had just plucked off actually a couple zucchinis already. There's little zucchini throughout, and let me try to show you. So there's a big one over here. This one's getting bigger. That one next to it is getting bigger. This one is a new one. So yeah, they're growing. But yeah, it's just not flourishing as well. When I went to Vegas, I think they got a bit dried out. Well, hopefully it'll just recover well. I had really done my best to try to treat the soil as best as possible. And they say the stronger your soil is, the stronger the plant is, and the more immune or better it is against defending against pests and fungus and all that. So I hope it'll survive. And then these are the pepper plants, this one and these three. And I had a little experiment going. For these three, I had pruned them back. And this one I did not. This one has fruit. So you might be able to see the green peppers there that are flourishing. I think there is 3 there. Oh. And looks like one fell off at the bottom there, so I'll have to go grab that one when I'm done. And these, I was so upset because after I had pruned these, it just stopped. There was no flowering, there was no growth for a good 3 weeks, and just now it's starting to come back. So I think my problem was I had pruned these way too late in the season. I had pruned these in early July, which is too late apparently. So I've learned for next year, but thank goodness it is starting to put some fruit forth, and only time will tell. You know, I'll only be able to say at the end of the summer whether pruning that late in the season was a good idea. I've learned from some channels to prune your pepper plants so that the stems get thicker. So on this plant where I did prune, the stems are thicker compared to this one where I did not. But the goal for me is fruit production, or production of actual peppers. So if I need to be pruning early, then I will do that. But yeah, only time will tell if this was successful or not. Over here, this kale is surviving. I mean, plants are just amazing how much they can endure. You know, a rabbit has been through this. I don't know if you could see that over here. It actually had broken during a storm in the spring. So it's surviving. And then this is the bean plant that the rabbit had almost killed off. And it's surviving. I've had to clip back the flowers a little bit sometimes because I do want it to get bigger before it starts producing beans, but I've decided since that whole pepper fiasco that I'm just gonna let nature do what it's gonna do, and we'll see what happens. And then this little kale is doing fine as well. I'm hoping that as the months cool in August and September that some of those kales get bigger, but I might actually be planting new ones. And then this here are some newer plants. Last video I had picked up some plants on clearance when the farmer's market had pretty much been done with selling starter plants, and my 2 cucumbers, this one had too much stem damage, I think, from in the starter pot, so I don't think it's gonna make it. I might pull it. But this one is growing, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to read up on how to feed this plant, and I will probably have to spray this plant to watch out for mildew, you know, some of the similar kinds of things that a zucchini plant would have. And then I was really stupid. So this is from a starter plant of carrots. And all I did was take it and dump it in here and put some soil on top of it. I did not thin it. So now that I've tried to thin it, it's harder because the leaves are much, much taller and the roots are deeper. So we just have to be careful, honey. I had heard that when you thin your carrots, you have to be careful of the carrot fly because it smells the carrot root or whatever. And this is what I had pulled out from thinning those carrot plants, and you can see that it was, for me, a good idea to thin those plants because look at these carrots. I mean, these are super, super, super tiny. Look at these itty bitty carrots. So if I had just let those plants grow without thinning them, then I probably would get teeny tiny carrots at the end of the season, which with the effort of watering and preventing against pests, it just wouldn't be worth it for me. So I will probably take these greens and put them in the compost pile, or I might juice them, add them to a smoothie, maybe to a soup. And then here are some green onions. This cilantro plant has barely grown since the last time I spoke to you guys, so I'm gonna give up on it. I had done a video last year or the year before about taking green onions from the store, chopping them, and then just sticking them in water. This year I decided to put them in soil, and the difference was that when I put them in soil, it seems to divide at the base, so you actually get more green onion. Whereas before, when I had just put it in water, it didn't seem to really do that as much. And then here is that tomato plant that I'm trying to rescue. It actually was a sucker from those 2 big plants at the beginning of the video, and it seems to be under a bit of distress. It has this curly thing. I'm hoping it doesn't have the curly leaf virus. So the soil was a bit dry, so that could be an issue as well. So I am watching it closely. If it does not seem to get better, I might trash the whole thing, because if it has that virus, that's not a good thing to have. And then this is the other zucchini plant. I'm growing one in the fencing and outside the fencing. And the one outside the fencing tends to dry out earlier, I feel like, probably because it gets more sun. But yeah, so this is another plant. I had kind of burned the leaves a bit, but see, I still ended up with mildew. That's what that is, right? If you're an experienced gardener, tell me what you think. This, as far as I understand, is not mildew. It's actually a design on the leaf, so you can see the difference compared to something like this. But yeah, it's not the prettiest thing to show you. But I did end up getting a few zucchini already, and I'm just waiting on these little guys. I have been eating the flowers like crazy, and I really wait for them to be done and fallen off the plant before I eat them. And they are delicious. I just kind of saute them in a little bit of oil, and I add some egg white, and I'm good to go. But like this one, for example, I would not eat. You know, this one is probably gonna open up tomorrow, or it might have opened up today, but usually when they open up in the morning, then in the afternoon they end up all curly at the tips, kind of twisting around itself. So that's probably gonna open up tomorrow. But yeah. And then these I am the most excited about. These are my French breakfast radishes. And I had gotten this container at Walmart. It's BPA free. I would have used the similar containers from the Dollar Tree, but unfortunately I don't know if they're BPA free. And they sell this tray too at Walmart that can use as a drainage. But oh my goodness, radishes are so simple to grow. People are absolutely right when they tell me that. And look at these beauties. Now I do have to tell you, if you're familiar at all with Japanese beetles, I did find a couple in here that were really munching away on the leaves. So I try to keep an eye on my plants really closely, try to let them tell me what's wrong, and really watch out for those kind of insects. And the beetles I just pinched off and threw away. But look how huge these are. I planted these 2 or 3 weeks ago. I mean, that's insane. And I was worried at first because it seemed like the soil had really settled. I mean, look how deep look at where the soil level is. When I had originally planted these, the soil was all the way up here. And it's not like a ton of the soil had leaked out from the bottom either. So I think it just really settled. So I think I'm getting pretty lucky, and maybe because the soil is so shallow, that's why the radishes are growing so well. I don't know. But I'm gonna pull one out and show you. Look at this one. Ooh. So this one's kind of crowded in. So half of these I had done kind of spreading them out as I should, maybe a bit more closer though than I really should. And then half of them I just kind of sprinkled all over the place and I didn't care. So the ones that I had actually done closer to the way I was supposed to flourished well, and the ones that did not barely came up at all. And when I had thinned them out and I had taken some radish plants out, I put them in the area that didn't have any radishes at all. So I'm sorry, I should have filmed that before, but man, these radishes grew so fast. I turned around and already they started producing. So these, here's one right here, I'll show you. Look at this one. That looks just delicious. These are French breakfast radishes, and they are a lot milder radishes, but of course the bigger they get, the stronger they're going to get. I honestly just rinse them off and eat them, and I'll eat the greens too. So delicious. But you could put them in stews and other kinds of soups. And the last thing I planted in the garden was the garlic, and this was an experiment. So one was in this pot over here, and 2 were in the sandy soil, and they're both surviving, I guess, but I haven't gotten to the point where I can eat the greens. So I don't know if I just have to wait a bit longer. I'm just going to keep watering them and crossing my fingers, hoping for the best. And then this is the big letdown, I guess. Live and learn. But I had planted strawberry crowns in here from Home Depot, and they never came up. I gave up on them last week after 3 weeks of waiting. Nothing had come up. This is actually just grass. This is not the strawberry plant. So yeah, this soil has been resting this week. I covered it up so it's not too dry. So I guess I won't be doing strawberries next year, unless I can plant them in the fall. I don't know if that's possible, but we'll see. And then this is my other green bean plant that after I prune back some of the crazy leaves, it's starting to flower again. So that is really everything. You know, my herb garden is doing well. I had to trim all that back. Make sure that you get all the flowers off the chives and the oregano, or else I hear that they die. Also the same for the thyme. There's actually a couple flowers there I see. And yeah, look at this. Rabbit came right up to the door and ate my basil. Oh well, that's okay, I guess. We'll just have to. Oh, and he also ate my choco mint. Yeah, so much for marigolds preventing rabbits. Although maybe this one doesn't like marigolds after all. So anyway, so that is my garden, and there's my boo picking out my hostas, as she shouldn't. And I still have those 2 zucchinis over there I had mentioned, and they are flowering, but I'm not expecting very much of them. They're just kind of decorative to have something green over there. So that is it for my garden. If you have any tips or tricks, please, please, please let me know. I would love to hear what you have to say. We have been eating these sun sugar tomatoes like crazy. It has been wonderful. I love those plants. So that is it, and thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care.